Hi, this is StrategyCast, where smart marketers and bold business thinkers share the plays behind brand breakthroughs. I'm Lori Jones, President and CEO of Avasec Communications. What if the biggest competitive advantage in marketing isn't your technology stack, your data, or even your AI strategy, but trust? As AI becomes embedded in every customer interaction, marketers are facing a new challenge. How do you scale efficiently without sacrificing authenticity, relationships, and credibility? Today, we're exploring why trust may be the most important growth driver in modern marketing and what leaders can do to build it intentionally. Today, my guest is John Golden, Chief Marketing and Strategy Officer at Coevera, and a leading voice on the intersection of AI, revenue growth, and relationship-driven business. John's work focuses on how organizations can create sustainable growth by strengthening the networks of trust where buying decisions actually happen.
A competitive edge starts with strategy, and strategy starts with knowing how to develop one. StrategyCast is a leading marketing podcast that serves up strategic insights, trends, and tips to help separate your business from the pack. Tune in weekly as host Lori Jones interviews bold marketing leaders who have priceless wisdom and are willing to share. Each episode explores cutting-edge approaches that have proven instrumental in transforming brands into industry trailblazers.
Welcome to the show, John.
Listen, thank you very much, Lori. Thank you for having me.
What an incredible, first of all, journey, which we're going to hear about in just a minute, but really so much focus on the importance of trust in everything that you do. I love that. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you said, I'm the Chief Strategy Marketing Officer here at Coevera. I also have the Sales Pop podcast as well that, I've been running for about 6 years now, 7 years maybe.
It like adds up very quickly, doesn't it?
It adds up very quickly. And, in previous times, like I was CEO of Hathaway, which has been selling for a while, and Omega Performance. And I started off my journey here, as we were talking before we come on air, like I'm Irish. I came to Silicon Valley during the dot-com in the mid to late 90s. And so I've been through the dot-com explosion and
Right.
implosion, and then all the other different business cycles. And we had 9/11 financial crisis. Here we had COVID. And now people fear AI.
Now we got AI.
Yeah, AI is going to sweep everything away.
Yeah.
So it's been very interesting, like these different cycles. I mean, the AI one now is probably the most intense one in its own
Right.
way, just because of the rapid speed of which it's happening. And it's left people sort of, I think, a little bit disconnected, if you like, or not really understanding what's happening with the world
Yeah.
and what's happening with their jobs and the future of business. And I think there's a lot of angst out there, and there's a lot of fear mongering too, obviously. And then there's been and then there's been poor deployments of AI too, which I think has underlined some of the concerns that people have. And I think the essence that it boils down to at the end of the day is, even before if we go back, even before COVID, people were starting to get a little tired of everything being hands off, right?
Right.
Technology had enabled companies to literally build walls around themselves. Like, you become a customer, fantastic. Now, once you're a customer, now you're stuck on phone trees.
Right.
And so that was happening. Then obviously COVID came and people sort of rediscovered that it was actually important to have
Yeah.
relationships with people and to actually communicate and interact with your fellow humans. And so I think
Concept.
that started a whole new kind of back to relationships. And now AI, I think, has really brought that into focus. And so people are like, well, I want to talk to humans, or I want to interact with humans. I want to, I want things to be convenient too. So I'm good with technology, but I just want to trust. I want to trust that when I engage with a company, regardless of whether it's a combination of human and AI, I need to trust that it's authentic. In
Yeah.
the
And
word you mentioned earlier.
I could not agree with you more. I think what's interesting about what you've just said is, if we take a look at the recessionary downfalls and COVID, nobody had a lot of control over what was happening. You just have to ride the wave, right? Seemingly, we felt, mostly marketers, because it was positioned this way, that it was going to replace marketing as a field. And seemingly we had no control. But in fact, we did. We as marketers actually were leading the AI transformation rather, within organizations because the CEOs didn't know what to do with it. And this is generative AI, if you think about it that way. CEOs didn't know what to do. All they were hearing was that it was going to replace marketing. So let's send marketing down the chute with it. And here we are transforming efficiency and so many different things with AI right now that we're the leaders of it in most organizations.
Yeah, no,
And
100%.
it's not taking away jobs, that's for sure.
No, it's 100%. I mean, I think, and I think it's unfortunate that the first framing of AI in many people's minds, and particularly at the executive level, to be honest, was, oh, great, I can save money now. I can get rid of
Yeah.
these resources. I don't need that, or I don't even need to go to marketing. I can just generate this myself. And unfortunately, that's not the case because I mean, number one, that ends up in chaos, but also we've seen instances now where people have gotten rid of people only to rehire them again later on when they discovered that like a classic example is outbound SDR cold calling, right?
Yeah.
They got rid of a lot of those people, replacing with agents, and people hate the agents.
Yeah.
Don't want
Okay, well, you hang up in the first 5 seconds because it's an agent.
Yeah. I mean, we tested one at one stage just to see, and you could see like it was, hang up, and then you get every so often you get one that was a long engagement. I thought, oh, so listen
Yeah.
to the recording. What is it? It's somebody just messing with the AI,
Yeah.
just out of just for grins. So I think that's the really important thing is that, and this is what we believe, and I'm sure it's the combination of the human and the AI, because the thing that AI can't do, AI can't replicate your experiences.
Yeah.
They can't
The wisdom.
the wisdom, exactly, the
Yeah.
nuances,
Mhm.
the kind of, let's face it, in marketing, sometimes it's not totally logical, is it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's more, there's a
it,
lot of experience, gut feel. There's good things
yeah.
that go into it that we've tried to remove.
Yeah. It's that human touch that I think is so important. So trust is something that I think is really getting pushed to the side. I was actually just in an agency roundtable with an interview with a local publication in the Boulder market, and we had a discussion for about an hour and a half about AI. And one of the things that I think is really a huge issue right now is many marketers, and I could even with some of the agency owners in the room, it was surprising to me because they were looking at AI as a way to create competitive advantage. And by all means, we're creating a lot of custom GPTs and AI agents for our clients. And I think we as agencies must be doing that, but we're doing it from the vein of efficiency and productivity. We're not doing it to replace the human element of IP and wisdom that's needed. But trust ultimately is the bigger differentiator here. And I was the only one in the room that mentioned trust. Now it's something that we hang our hats on, so I get that, but it is the most important thing right now regarding the way that any brand can create credibility in the market.
I agree, and I think that, and I think a lot of it is that, again, I think that coming at it from the wrong angle, and it's coming at it from like, I have AI, it's a hammer, everything's a nail right now, right? So I'm just going
Exactly.
around whacking everything instead of going, well, let's be a little bit more strategic about this. We agree, right, that trust is important, that the human connection is important. At the end of the day, you don't do, I mean, you do business with people, and you do business with, and the personality of the company comes out through the people, right?
Yeah.
So if you were pushing everything straight to AI, I think you're taking the wrong approach. The first thing you should do is look at, okay, how can AI take away the mundane, the routine work, the lower value stuff, so that now like automate it, help take AI for that, and allow then your people to start doing higher value activities, right? The relationship building,
Right.
the kind of things that only humans can do, and then obviously leverage the tools for efficiency, but also get away from the idea that it's a tool or that it's going to replace you, and instead start looking at AI as it's a colleague.
Right.
It's a
Do
colleague.
I think skepticism is at an all-time high.
Mhm.
What role does AI play in that?
Oh no, that plays a huge role. I mean, I can quote you a few stats actually, and 85% of people would rather speak to a real person, right,
Yeah.
rather than a bot. Um, and the other thing is, where's this other one here? Yeah, trust. This is 2026 Edelman Trust Barometer finds that we're 49% globally say they trust AI, right? But in
Yeah.
the US, that falls to 32%.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a huge trust deficit there, right? You can say, wow, 32% of people in the US trust AI. Well, 68% don't.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's a big issue, and I think building trust is if at the end of the day, credibility is the number one reason why people choose to
yeah,
purchase or not purchase from any
mhm,
brand, or as step through the threshold of a restaurant or a retail store, or click buy now for a computer store. It's because of the credibility that's been developed. That credibility is only developed through the right advertising and marketing in the market, through the
mhm,
right positioning, through the right relationship, so on and so forth, which ultimately is trust, right? They
mhm.
trust that what they're going to get is what they believe they're going to get, and they say, yes, I want to choose that. Um, why are consumers then, or why are brands then, rather, not placing the level of importance on it that they need to be?
Because I think yeah, again, like I think that they're approaching it from the wrong angle. I think they're approaching it from the efficiency, the ease, the saving money. I can pump out stuff faster, all of that. And there's an element of truth in that. However, if you approach it differently, and as I said, you start having the human and the AI working together in collaboration, and and then you start to make sure that you're transparent. And I think that's the thing. I think that's what
Yeah.
consumers really want, is they want transparency, right? They're going to love the efficiency that AI brings. Who wouldn't, right? You want to have a better experience when you engage, but at the end of the day, you want to connect and believe that there are real people behind it, and people who are going to have your back, or
Right.
or people you can trust, or people you share the same ideas with, or whatever. I don't think I mean, yes, people relate to brands for sure, but those brands have to be represented, right?
Right.
Otherwise, they're just bumper stickers.
Yeah.
And I
And
think that's it.
represented ties into people.
Yeah, and it does,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
ties into people. So you should. So I think people need to get away from this idea of what does AI do and what does people do, and say, what do AI and people do together to
Yeah.
to increase our efficiency, make sure we hit our target audience the right way, but that we also are transparent, and that we establish that real authenticity and that trust level. So one of the things would be, absolutely, you should tell people when you're using AI.
Mhm.
Don't let
Uh,
them discover. That's the worst thing. Don't let them discover. And to be honest, if you're interacting with AI, and you're actually interacting with AI, and it's giving you what you need, fantastic. You're happy.
yeah. Well, I think we're all getting a lot more done
Mhm,
because of the incredible tool that AI provides us.
mhm,
Let's switch gears here for a second. You've talked about the concept of a revenue network.
mhm.
What does that mean?
Well, there's a number of things. I mean, particularly in B2B business today. I mean, I think Gartner said recently it's up to like 7 or 8 or 9 people argue buying committees, right?
Ah, very true.
There's not single people making decisions. There's not a single decision maker. There's a lot of influences. There's people. So already, when you engage at the very beginning, you're already engaging with a number of people, right? So that in itself is a network, right? So you need to understand who the individuals are. Then you can start to look at what connections do you have to these people, like external, internal, whatever. So you building out your network, and therefore then when you start to sell, you're selling to this group of people. You're focusing things differently for different people. You're bringing in, maybe you have somebody who used to work there, you know, somebody who consulted there. You're also accessing them. So you're building out this network around it. And then hopefully, if you're successful, you know, then they become a customer. Then eventually they become a referral, a recommendation for you. Therefore, the network again expands, right? So now you've gone from you to this group of people, to them as a customer, to now a referral to another group. And that's where, and the revenue lives there. It doesn't live in a single record on in your CRM. It's
Right.
a living, breathing thing that's shared among all of these people. And it's managing that network is what ultimately drives revenue.
Right. And looking at it through this lens, how does that change the way marketers should be approaching growth?
Yeah, I think for marketers is, you know, we've talked, you know, hyper personalization and all of that stuff is being talked about for a long time. I think it's just it's important for market, particularly if you're marketing in a as I said, in a B2B case where you have multiple stakeholders and stuff. I think you just have to be make sure that your message, you have different messages for different audiences,
Right.
and different audiences within that group. And yeah, and you know, account-based marketing where you're literally like creating messaging for these people. And I think that's the key now. I think we've all become very, unfortunately, we're all very distracted. We have no attention span. And if it doesn't resonate with us, we're very selfish now, right? If it doesn't resonate with us and our role exactly, we kind of dismiss it. And so therefore you have to get into marketing to individual roles, individual perspectives, and
Yeah.
you should be able to get. And that might seem, well, that sounds like a lot, but no. Over time, you will see patterns like this kind of person needs this kind of person needs that.
Yeah. And, it's really a trust ecosystem if you think about it, at the end of the day. And the cross-pollination of a CEO to a chief engineer to a
Yeah,
procurement director is something that I think is very, very important. And people lose sight of how they're all still talking, and they're all still wanting to learn more and grow more. They might have a different POV
yeah,
about what it is that they're learning from you, but I really like what you just said about the need to really isolate the message to make sure that it's compelling to each of those audiences. And, to bring back AI, once you've got those strategies, and let's just take shared media for a minute here. Once you've got the content strategy down, to isolate the very specific message based on that different audience of just the three that I just explained is
yeah.
the perfect use of AI.
No, absolutely, and it gives you, because let's face it. I mean, you may not be an expert in the, you know, you don't really know how to talk to the CTO, right, or whatever,
Right,
but AI can absolutely help you. I think the other thing too uh, is you just, people when they're using AI, they also need to, they need AI to establish trust with them, right? And what I
right.
mean by that is, I've seen a lot of people fall into this trap of, you know, where they just put stuff in, put prompts in, and they just take out whatever comes back at them and whatever. And they're not realizing that even the best models still hallucinate about 20% of
Yep.
the time. Um, Oftentimes they're not working off the most up-to-date information. You have to tell them to do that.
Mhm.
And so I think when people are interacting with AI, they also need to kind of come at it saying, okay, AI needs to, an AI needs to prove that it is trustworthy. Therefore, I need to test these things. I need to make sure that I remain skeptical until I'm sure that I'm getting the right information or it's doing the right thing for me.
Yeah. In your role that you've got right now, how have you realigned the funnel based on maybe what you may have done pre-AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, there's a number of things that we have done, and mostly is that the first part is that now we're so much more intelligent when we engage initially with people, right? Because we have everything. there. So we're able to be a lot more focused than in the past. And also part of it has allowed us to be more proactive because we can track things, we can track sentiment, we can track how
Yeah.
the health of an account. So we have a lot more intelligence to intervene at different points and at the points when people may need help and support. And I think that's the big difference now is that we're far more informed and intelligent and therefore we can target our interventions that much better.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Do you have any specific insights for our audience today on how you're using AI to make sure that you're maintaining authenticity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, number one, we're not just taking stuff out of AI and flinging it onto flinging it
Right.
onto the web. No, we're making sure that everything stays on message and stays to our core principles, and that it's valuable too. Because here's the other thing: is unfortunately there's a lot of slop being pushed out there right now. Is we focus on, again, it's trust. Is that we only produce things that are valuable. We
Right.
only push out things that are actually valuable rather than just volume. And I think there's a lot of volume volume out there right now. So we use it extensively, but we use it as, I always say, it's like having a bunch of PhDs sitting beside me who have 30 years business experience, right?
Yeah.
Each. So we use it, as I said earlier, we collaborate with it, but we validate it and then we review it. And so the human is always the last point of sign off on anything. And I
Right.
think that's really important. And and it has to be, as I said, it has to be valuable, it has to be reviewed properly, it has to be authenticated, it has to make sure that that the content or whatever you're doing it is actually accurate. So
Yeah.
that's how we use a lot of tools. We use them for making sure that our SEO and GEO and AEO is up to
Up to snuff.
up to
Yep.
snuff. Yeah, you'd be surprised, actually. Maybe you wouldn't be, but you'd be surprised how many people don't know what AEO is right now,
Yeah.
and not that many people know GEO. So
Well,
it
it's a very important part, and a piece of that, of course, is thought leadership and all the
Mhm.
content that we're pushing out to help both of those sort of things. And if you take a look at LinkedIn today, John, it is such a mess
Oh,
of thought leaders
mhm,
who are using quote unquote thought leaders
mhm.
who are now thought leaders because
Yeah.
of AI providing the strategic insight that they think they need in order to position themselves as a thought leader. It is so hard within that channel in particular to really cut through the clutter. A podcast is a really easy way of doing that because it's authentic,
Mhm.
it's video, they see us on video, they
Yeah.
hear our words, so on and so forth. What are you doing outside of blogging to really make sure that the authenticity to build that trust is at the next level?
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, we do have the podcast ourselves.
Yeah,
So that is one way we do it. But I think the other way we do it as well is that we always try to maintain an authentic voice in everything we say. And like you said about it, it's very easy to kind of pass yourself off as a thought leader now from something you generated out of AI. But where's the substance? Where's the
right.
background? Where's the experience? And we come back to trust, right? You could put up something beautiful up on LinkedIn, and then I look at you and I read, oh, that's interesting. But then I look at you and I'm thinking, what is this based on? Because looking
Yeah.
at your background here, I don't see, what establishes you as a thought leader in this. Yeah, and then it's obviously AI. So I think you have to have an authentic voice and you have to have substance, and
Yeah.
you've got to stick to making sure that you stick to the true authentic, easy for me to say, true authentic through authentic voice. And I think that is so important, and I think that's where it's getting lost for people because, as I said, they're letting AI do the work and they're not checking it, they're not making sure it's staying on point,
Right.
and then you have that mess that comes up. And I think, yeah, I mean, LinkedIn became a spam platform during COVID, unfortunately. And now with AI, it's just gone into overdrive.
Horrible. Yeah, it's absolutely horrible. And I'm hoping that LinkedIn is going to eventually really try to turn this around because the algorithm changes that they put
Mm.
into play are not helping either. And I mean, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you say, where they go, oh, we've improved the platform to do this, and you go, could you please stop improving it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. I've had this come up a couple times in just the last month, and that is really figuring out that there was such a disconnect between authenticity internally and what we were saying externally.
Mhm.
That internal communications programs, we had to, in two situations, step in and create a stronger program for internal comms to really bridge that
Right.
because of the disconnect that we were seeing in the market. What are you seeing in that situation? And what advice do you have for marketers right now that might be experiencing the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the most important thing is to make sure that everybody in your company, understands, who you are, what the company principles are, what your vision is, who the customers you serve, the product, and the overarching messaging. What I did at a couple of companies once, sorry, is I got when we did our annual strategic planning. At the end of it, I said to the senior team, I said, okay, now we're going to get this onto one page, right?
Yeah,
And we got it onto one page, and then this dates us a little bit, but then I said, okay, I want that laminated and distributed to every single person in the organization.
yeah,
And then I said,
so smart.
I want you to put this up in your workspace, wherever it is. I want it right in front of you in your eye line and I said, on a daily basis, when you're doing your work, I want you to glance up. And if you can see how your work relates to what's on that,
Yeah,
I want you to talk to your manager or come to me.
yeah,
Right? And I think things like that are so critical because we forget, like, maybe the grand strategy comes down, and then by the time it gets down to, this poor marketing person over here working on that, it's never really been properly
yeah,
explained to them,
yeah,
so they're kind of working off of incomplete information, doing their best job. Or somebody, who actually interfaces in customer service, so they say, well, we don't need to explain that to customer service.
yeah,
Of course you do. That's another selling point. And
yeah,
so the other thing about trust, I think, and this is a key thing, is nowadays, every interaction a customer has with you, whether it is coming to your website, whether it's, Instagram, whether it's an email they received, whether it's a call, whether they're calling customer service, whether, they're an existing customer, every touch point has to be consistent in how it's dealt
yeah.
with, right? So it has to be the same message, it has to be the same experience, because we're terrible as people, right? I mean,
Oh,
I was use this example, right? You can say you're going on a long haul flight, right? You get to the airport, it's super smooth. You get to security, super smooth. Flight leaves on time, flight's fine, gets in, maybe even gets in early. You're all happy. Then there's a 30-minute delay on the bags, no announcements, no nothing, right?
right.
But you could walk away. You say, "What a terrible experience! Oh, how was your trip? Oh, it was terrible." And you're going, "How was it?" It wasn't actually. It was just
It was
that last
perfect until then.
until
Yeah.
that thing. And that's where I think that is where trust is lost,
Hmm.
because at any one of those points of contact or intersection with the prospect or customer, if it's not consistent, then that's where trust breaks down. Because I think consistency and trust are two sides of the same
Yeah.
coin.
Well, and so what happens here is that you end up needing to build habits, right? And
Yes.
habits don't build through number one, lack of information. We've
Mhm.
established that, but they also don't build without reinstilling the habits so that they know precisely, what the messaging is, how we
Mhm.
manage specific questions, so on and so forth. Most of our programs, when we implement a new campaign or an initiative for a client, the programs are 12 months. So each
Right.
month we're getting together with all teams combined. We're sharing questions that we're getting from the field through sales or direct from customers. We're establishing how specifically, what's the commonality, what is the talking point to manage that. And this goes on for 12 months, and not just questions, but additional learnings along the way, so that it becomes ingrained in the mindset and more of an immediate reaction versus something that isn't or doesn't tie into it ultimately what the message is intended to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's where a lot of companies fall down because like they'll spend a lot of time working on, here's what the salespeople should say, here's how you should present the product, but
What
they
about
don't.
everyone else?
But what about everybody else? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you probably come across it. You come across sometimes people who you say, "Oh, what is your?" They work in a company. Maybe they work in market or they work in something, and you say, "Oh, what is the company doing?" You go, "Not really sure."
Yeah. Oh, I know. It goes back to that aspect of, this is so commonplace, but I'm just going to say it because it's, the elevator speech. There's a reason why we've got a value prop, an elevator speech, what a brand promise, whatever it might be, because if you can remember one thing about the company, that's what we want you to remember. Now, it goes way beyond that anymore, and it always should have, but it's important.
And I think the other thing too, Laurie, is that I had this conversation again the other day. Actually, it was about sales and marketing alignment, right? Somebody was talking to me, and I said what I say every year. I say, I can't believe it's 2026 and we're still talking about sales and marketing alignment. Why that is still a problem,
Unbelievable.
I don't know, because it's not linear, it's not demarked. There's so much overlap. And to do it effectively now, you need sales and marketing so tightly working together and integrating and all that. It's amazing that that still doesn't happen in a lot of organizations.
Yeah, it really is. So we're halfway through the year, and we're already starting planning, 2027 planning for all of our clients. What is the one thing that you think marketers really need to be thinking about as they move into 2027?
Yeah, I think exactly what we talked about today. I think I honestly think trust is a massive currency, right?
Yeah.
And I think it is a driver of growth because I do see skepticism increasing. I do see people are going to have great experiences with AI and people are going to have bad experiences. It's just the nature of it. People are producing tools and everything so fast that it's inevitable that some of these are going to not do what they said they would do and
Yeah.
probably cause issues. So I think the skepticism is going to grow. I think people are going to want more transparency. They're going to want to know what is your AI, what is your AI strategy? Because it's only a matter of time before people are going to start saying, well, did you use AI for that? I'm not paying for that or whatever. So,
I've been
then
saying it for 2 years,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
So
yeah,
exactly. So again, I think the other part is you have to be confident in the value that you bring
yeah.
as a human and how you're leveraging it and how without you coordinating, directing it, inputting it, sharing your experience, the output would not be the same, right?
Yeah.
So
We release our tech stack
yeah,
with every engagement, and it's in our master services agreement. And we don't commit to what we will or won't use, but we let them know we're using it. Now, we're going to open up Pandora's box here at the very end of this conversation, but there are issues with AI when it comes to the legal trademarking right now. So we're making sure that anything that needs to be trademarked is not developed through AI,
yeah,
because it's just too early to tell whether or not it can or cannot be.
yeah.
Uh,
That's a really good point. So yeah, I think what marketers should be doing going into next year or whatever is really saying how do we stand out as the most trusted
I love it.
brand,
Yeah.
right? And what do we need to do to establish that trust? And I guarantee if you talk to people, it'll be transparency. We
Mhm.
just want to know exactly like what you're doing and what you're not doing, what is technology, what's not technology, what are you bringing to the table, all those things. So I think trust and warmth, because that's the other thing too. I think there's a danger that AI takes away a little bit of humanity from us and we
I
start
love
to get a
that.
little bit too kind of, because here's the thing is this is happening, like people are getting obsessed and can like end up like just spending their whole day and night like in AI and whatever, never talking to anybody
Right.
again. So I think we need to be very careful. I think we need to protect that human part because I think that is, you talked about competitive differentiator earlier. I think the competitive differentiator is smart use of AI tools by smart people.
I love it. Ah, that is such a great end quote. You nailed that one, John. What is the best way for our audience to get in contact with you?
Coevera.com or LinkedIn and the Sales Pop podcast.
That's fantastic. As AI continues to reshape how brands communicate, one truth remains unchanged. People trust people. The organizations that create the greatest impact won't be the ones generating the most content. They'll be the ones earning the most credibility. Because in a world where attention is abundant and authenticity is scarce, trust becomes the ultimate competitive advantage. And with that, that's a wrap today. John Golden, thank you so much for your appearance on StrategyCast.
Yeah, thank you, Laurie.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on today's show. We hope your strategic brains are spinning with new ideas and bold inspiration that will elevate your strategies and marketing know-how.